no one knows. As the face lies the snake in the sun, in my disgrace. Boiling heat, summer stench, neath the black, the sky looks dead. Call my name through the cream, and I'll hear you scream again. Black hole sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain. Black hole sun, won't you come? Won't you come? Won't you come? Stuttering, cold and damp, steal the warm wind, tired friend. Times are gone for honest men, and sometimes far too long for snakes. In my shoes, walking sleep. In my youth, I pray to keep heaven send hell away. No one sings like you anymore. Black hole sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain. Black hole sun, won't you come? Won't you come? Black hole sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain. Black hole sun, won't you come? 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 Hang my head, drown my fear, till you all just disappear. Black hole sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain. Black hole sun, won't you come? Won't you come? Black hole sun, won't you come? Wash away the rain. Black hole sun, won't you come? Won't you come?
Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn here, your host for episode number 156, Closing Argument, delivered to you here tonight, Thursday, Halloween night, October 31, just a few days before this momentous election. Closing Arguments. Good morning, Tanner.
Good morning, David.
Got Tanner in the studio. We're going a little late today, and that is because I had the privilege of being in studio early this morning with Royce White. We did a Hebrews edition, which we'll post up on Friday night on the 1st of November. I hope you get a chance to watch that. This is an interesting podcast that Royce and I did. We had a meeting this week with an associate of mine who is an American citizen, American citizen who was born in the country of China and who actually participated in the student uprising, the student protests, which we call now the Tiananmen Square Massacre. And we got to talk together about his involvement and his view and why he is so radically committed to President Trump, even though he was an Obama voter. And he's had this awakening. He's a very educated man. Educated people tend to be on the left. But what he has seen develop is the same thing his family lived through in China. His grandfather was killed by the communists. His father was imprisoned solely because he was the son of his grandfather, who was also an honest man. And then this particular individual had to leave China because of his involvement in the Tiananmen Square protests or uprising. So it's a very interesting podcast. I had a really good time doing it. And the political dialogue and insight was unusually insightful because we had such an educated guest who had so much to say. So I hope you can catch that. We started out with music. This goes back to my theme. I recognize that the Fed can keep this charade going indefinitely and that they can continue to terrify me with threats of nuclear war that could come tomorrow or could never come. I recognize that. But one of the things that I do in my life, I think I've learned this, it really works. War, the art of war and the art of business are very closely related. The difference is that usually in business, people don't die, but that's not always the case. I mean, in business, people die sometimes, but they're in strategy, they're related. And I subscribe to the strategy that I plan for the worst and hope for the best. I plan for the worst and I hope for the best. And planning for the worst means, for me, that my life could end any day, either because of a conflict, because of disease, or because I'm out in the street and something happens that I don't expect. So I'm going to play music that I find very satisfying. It's for me, but if you like it, Tanner, you said you like Black Hole Sun. You like Soundgarden, right?
Yeah, Black
You
Hole
must have
Sun's a
been
good song.
2 years old when this band cracked off. How old were you in this band? You must have been, 10 years old?
I don't know when this band was.
This band was before the grunge movement. This was one of the original, what they call the grunge sound.
Yeah.
They were before Nirvana, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So it was probably
So I probably wasn't even born then.
Well, it was like the mid to late 90s, I would say this song is from. Somebody can put it in the live chat. I'm sorry I didn't do my homework, but I've always loved this song. And you like the song, right?
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
I really like the music video. I don't know if the music video is going to be shown. We're going to test to see if copyright is nice to us. But the music video, when I was young and like getting into video at first, I wanted to be a music video producer. So when I saw that music video, I was like, this is so cool. It's so unsettling. People's faces are just like changing. I couldn't really understand what the song was even about, but something just grabbed my attention about it. So I've always loved that song.
Actually, that's an interesting comment that you couldn't understand what the song is about. Because according to the person who wrote the lyrics, it's about nothing. It's a song that didn't have a meaning. So any meaning we put to these lyrics, we're actually co-creators of the meaning of this song. And I've known that for a long time. And I know that, when I think of a black hole, this is a scientific theory um, about what happens when a large star collapses on itself at the end of its life and creates a matter that's so dense that nothing, even light, cannot escape from it. And the mood of this song, you're alluding to the mood. You like the mood of the song?
Yeah.
In the 90s, I was like super young. Everything was super positive if you were, you know, playing the globalist game. If you were in the place where the smoking lamp was lit, the 90s was great. But what was happening was the very forces that are tearing our society apart were becoming very evident to young people during the 90s. And it led to this kind of dark, foreboding, very raw and gritty music, which was very popular. And it was popular because that was the high point of freedom, the 90s. It was the high point of freedom. We'd been sufficiently far from the Vietnam War. It was after the Gulf War. The country was being bought off with materialism. And there was just a wide open, hey, if we can think of it, let's go do it. And this music, I mean, I don't even know if this could make it onto the radio today.
Yeah.
This kind of music, this kind of gritty, raw, gets you inside. And just play it because I like it. That's it. We're going to play music we like. That's the way it goes. I hope you like it too. I hope it meets Tucker's, because Tucker, he likes a grittier kind of music than I play. I played some Rihanna and he was not happy about it. But she's a great singer, Tucker. So, I mean, you might not like her and you might not like her music. It is a little bit bubblegum and the lyrics are very trite, but she can sing. And as a musician, I find myself drawn to things that are artistic. But we like this, and we're going to play some more of this kind of music over the days and weeks to come. Closing arguments. Okay. I got a lot of people watch this podcast more and more all the time. Thank you for joining. Let me ask you up front, please spread the podcast out. We're going to have the election next Tuesday. Great. You know what the Republican Party of Minnesota does after the election? They go to sleep for a year and a half. And if you're listening to me and you're in the party, go to sleep. Go back to sleep, because all you're doing is gumming up this country. And I've watched, and I've been very quiet about this, but we're just a few days out from the election. I would never make an excuse or make a comment about the outcome of any game. Like when I would go fight and I, get a bad call from a ref, okay? They didn't call it the way I saw it, and I got beat. So what? I gave it my best. There's no excuses. But I did remember that the ref sucked. At the very worst, he was no good at his job. At the very best. At the worst, he didn't like me and he was manipulating things. That's not what a ref does. That's not what we do in a political party. In a political party, we serve, this is my vision. It's not the vision of the hierarchy, the Tom Emmers, the people that run Minnesota politics in the Republican Party. Their vision is we serve them, okay? We serve them. They're the boss. That's not my vision. My vision is I serve the people underneath me. They're my boss. The whole polarity of politics is upside down. This is why Jesus went into the temple and turned over the tables of the money changers. It's a metaphor for reversing the polarity of power. The people that have money sit there and tell us how it's going to be. And look what it is. Look what it is. It's completely out of control for the average American citizen. So, the leadership from the very beginning worked against the Royce White candidacy. And it's my opinion, being a political observer, my opinion, that they also worked against the Donald Trump candidacy. And here is why. These are closing arguments about what I've learned. We have two allegedly huge blocks of voters that are not voting Republican. And these two blocks are the same but a little different. Christians, I don't know if this is true, it's what they tell me from the party, chase the 35% of Christian voters in the outstate that don't vote Republican. And my comment is, are they really there? I don't know. But as I've waded into it, I have found out we have a lot of Christian people that do not vote because they've given up on the political process. And I've also been told that their preachers, the leaders of the flock, tell them that politics is of this world. It's corrupt, and that their citizenship is really in heaven with Jesus Christ. The Jesus Christ that walked into the temple of the money changers and flipped over the tables and ended up crucified for his political activities at that time. And it was political. We see it as religious. Of course. Of course. It's a religion. But at the time, can you think of a more political action than, first for the Jew and then for the Gentile? You mean we're going to open the books on the mafia? For example, let me tell you, that's very political. That's the ultimate. We're going to make a big tent. We're going to kill this guy for sure. This tent's just for us. No, First for the Jew, then for the Gentile. Turn over the tables of the money changers. Reduce a complex system of law that people have a hard time with, just learning it, let alone doing it. We're going to reduce this down to 2 ideas so that it works for the common person that's struggling every day just to feed themselves. They're not scholars. They can't sit in a academic institution and study day till night and figure the stuff out. Just 2 simple ideas. Please let me share with you, right? So political. But now these preachers tell their flocks, please don't be of this world. This is so far from the tradition. The tradition that says that God left the world incomplete on purpose. Is God a schmuck? I mean, think about this now. If you're going to say that it's this way, and it's this way on purpose, hey, this is what the Satanists say. The Satanists say that God created the world, and look how terrible it is. God must be evil. That's their argument. That's not my argument. My argument is God left the world unfinished so that we had free will to participate in the creation process, that we get to choose if this ends up being heaven or hell. And look what we're choosing. Look what we've chosen. We've chosen the British business model of slavery, drugs, and piracy. We're all in on it. Every one of us, almost, is taking the material benefit of science and of the U.S. government. Man, I love looking at people in my life. Look at the pixels on my screen. I made 25% gains this year. You didn't make shit. You got pixels on a screen in a government-controlled retirement account that they can take away from you anytime they need to or want to. That's not yours. Doesn't have my name on the dollar bill. It's not the dollar bill of David Penn. It says the United States of America. I'm just renting. I'm a renter. So those 35% of Christians, if that's true, which I'm saying it over and over again, I'm not sure, because that could be a fugazi given to me by the party to send me on a wild goose chase out in the outstate area, when the voters we know we need, the voters that matter, the ones that are going to turn this country, are in every inner city. You look at these maps, and it says, America's red, except for these blue cities. These blue cities control the action. They control the action, and the Republican Party in Minnesota abandoned Minneapolis and St. Paul before I was knee-high to the grasshopper. They went out to the suburbs and set up shop, and they're in collusion with the Democrat, and the Democrat controls the cities, and the cities keep getting bigger and bigger. That's what mass transit's all about. The light rail goes from the center to the outskirts, pushing the Republicans for, and then there's a scam that I think Royce White speaks about very eloquently. Every day I get up, I look at Alpha News, and there's another picture of a black criminal or I look at the newspaper, or I look at Fox News, and it's black crime. Black crime, so dangerous. It's so dangerous. It's so dangerous, in fact, that people from the outstate and from the suburbs won't go into the city where we've abandoned 1 million people to communism. We've abandoned them. They don't even know we exist. Republicans. So I learned something on this campaign, other than just learning how to do all the mechanisms. I mean, it's not that complex. It's a business. But the part that is challenging is, how am I going to motivate myself and people my age, hundreds of us, thousands of us, to show up in the street, to go to street events, to stand there and smile. You know, we went this past weekend to the Gophers game, a handful of us. There was 50, 60,000 people walking into the homecoming game of the Minnesota Gophers on the campus of the University of Minnesota, the railhead of communism here in Minnesota. It's the railhead. And we stood there and we smiled and we waved, and people liked Royce, and it was cool. It was cool. It was really cool. And there was a handful of us. If we had 500 people in the state you're in, if you want to be a leader in this movement, and I hope you do, because the founding fathers didn't say, it's freedom if you can keep it. What they were really saying was, you do whatever you need to do to keep it, or you're going to lose it. That's what they were saying. And we're not doing enough. We have to go into these inner cities. In every major city in this country, we, Republicans, we need to go to every sporting event, not just during the election season, but the week after the election is over. We got to go into these communities and let these people know that we exist. We don't even exist for these people. And guess what? They don't exist for my age group either. Oh my God, go into the inner city? Oh, that's dangerous. Oh, go to the Gophers game? Oh, that's dangerous. You know, we have to overcome some justified concerns. Some are justified. But if I go to the inner city with 100 people and we're together, there's no danger in that. There's no danger in that. And the power of that, the power of those communities seeing that somebody else cares about them other than the people that they know are oppressing them, because they are not stupid. That is another revelation that we all need to get to. We're living in a Darwinian hierarchy where the PhDs think they run things and they think they're the smartest, and all the rest of us are stupid. Stupid, okay? They only admit to one kind of intelligence when there is almost an infinite kind of intelligence. And they run everything. And they exploit people. And people know they're being exploited. I know I'm being exploited. Do you know you're being exploited? Of course, you're here. So how are we going to fight back? We're going to organize. We're going to bring people to the podcast. Please leave comments. Click the like button. Spread this thing out. Because I'm staying here on YouTube where the progress is inch by inch. Even for a superstar like Royce White, the progress is inch by inch. Bring the people to Free People Radio. Let's get things going. So the election's coming up. Great. Vote. I mean, if you're in this audience and you're not going to vote, or you're watching this just because you're scrolling on through and you're not going to vote, and you hear me say this, voting is the exercise of your free will. It's like a muscle. If you don't use it, it's going to become flaccid and worthless. You'll have no free will. What does will do? What is the right use of will? That is the question we need to ask ourselves in the search for truth. What is the right use of will? The right use of will is creativity. I, as an American citizen, am the sovereign of my own life. My rights are protected, and I am free to create the world that I create. I make good decisions. I have a better world than if I make worse decisions. And everybody's a mixed bag. I make some good decisions over here, and I make some crappy ones over there. And we're always learning. Our decisions are getting better and better from birth till death. That's what this thing is all about. Free will. And we're living in a country that still, at least gives lip service to it. And that lip service is good enough if we, American citizens, get into the streets, stand together in lawful protest, freedom to assemble, freedom to speak, and just let people know we care about them. That's how we win this thing. The left controls the streets. It controls the grassroots organizing. They're winning because we're getting outworked. That's my big revelation. My closing argument, part of it is, hey, quit your complaining. I mean, if you're not doing the work, you got to just accept the communism that's coming to you. And if you want to know what's coming, just listen to Bruce on Friday night when he tells you what happens when the communists get control. Because here's what they're going to do. And they did the same thing to my family in the Ukraine. Hey, just an affiliation with a group doesn't mean that you did anything with that group, doesn't mean you agree with that group. Just some bureaucrat in the Communist Party is looking down the list. They go, oh, look at this guy. Look at what group of this person. This person's Catholic. That's in the Catholic Church. Oh, arrest that man because they're Catholic. Good enough. Good enough. If we're going to stop this from happening, we're going to have to get a lot more motivated here in Minnesota than we've been thus far. And let us hope that all over this country, people go to the polls and we have a landslide victory for Republicanism because now we got something to work with. But here I'm in Minnesota. I am not abandoning my post. I intend to be part of the group of people that take this state back to the philosophy of Republicanism. And we got the wind in our sails. Let's not drop our efforts the day after the election. Let us triple our efforts because regardless of the outcome, the fight's not over. Let's say Donald Trump wins in a landslide. Landslide. Oh, we're going to be so happy. Most of us are going to say we won. We didn't win anything. The fight is just beginning. All we did is we got into the blocks to run the race. If he wins, great. Now he's got to get inaugurated. That'll be a fun 75 days. I know you've been thinking about that. Now he's inaugurated. We got to make sure this thing sticks, and it doesn't stick in 4 years. It just doesn't work like that. We need a generational change, a change of culture, a change of zeitgeist. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight after we go through some news that matters. Since I saw you last, sorry we weren't with you on Tuesday. And let me do a little housekeeping and say, for those that are listening, we're not going to do a podcast on election night. Let us all be gripped by the events of the day. I will be at the television watching the returns come in and contemplating my next move. So we're going to take next Tuesday off. Thank you. We'll be back, God willing, a week from tonight, Thursday, and we'll have a little post-election post-mortem, right?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Are you going to vote, young man?
Oh, yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
You bringing anybody with you to the polls?
My girlfriend.
She's going to vote.
Yes.
Is that her first time she's voting?
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, it isn't. First time voting Republican, though.
Oh, you got her to come around the corner.
So,
And here's another closing argument, because the Democrat is all about a woman's right to reproductive health care. And I watch MSNBC, and they're just doubling down on this every single day, more and more. Mika Brzezinski, what a saleswoman. Man, if she loses her job at MSNBC, she should go sell cars. This woman she's the Terminator on this issue. And we're going to talk about her in a little bit. They're really pushing this women's healthcare issue to the max. And, like in China, we had Bruce on for Hebrews. When the Chinese government fell and Mao took over, the first thing he did, because women were property, liberated the women, gave them their own ministry, the Ministry of Women's Affairs. And all the women in China love the Communist Party because the communists are protecting their rights. They're another minority group, just like in this country. Not that long ago, women were property. Man, they only got emancipated about 100 years ago so they could vote. That was a big deal. The silent sentinels, we talked about it. So the women are voting Democrat because the Democrat is protecting their freedom. This is a very complex issue because they think their freedom is what it is. And I'm not going to comment on that. I'm just going to say this, women, I'm sure you have friends that are voting Democrat. I know you do, okay? It's the way it is. And I'm just going to say to your friends or to you, if you're going to vote Democrat, because this is the most important issue, right? The number one issue? No, it is not. It is a derivative issue of peace or war. Now look at the real closing argument here. The Democrat liberal order is at war imposing democracy throughout the world, which includes a woman's right to reproductive health care. Part of the deal. The Republicans, hey, we're just going to make peace break out everywhere almost overnight. Why? Because we're not into the Democrat liberal order. We're letting that go. I mean, the real Republicans, the real ones, not the BS ones like Tom Emmer, not those people, okay? Not the people that look at you and say they're for Trump and you know they're lying to you, okay? Lying, because they are purveyors of the post-World War II Democrat liberal order and all the military and trade issues that come with it. Those folks, okay? They're entitled to their opinion. I respect their opinion. I'm just with the group of people that don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think their narrative is unwinding. It's just unwinding. But hey, to hold on to power, we're at war. We are at war as a country. And let's say this thing spins out of control. They lose it. I don't think they want it to. I think they just want to terrify me. Terrify me so that I'm not effective. But let's say it spins out of control. Because you know when you're playing with fire, sometimes you get burnt. You just do. I used to love to play with fire when I was a kid. Burnt shit up all the time. You know, I had my gas can that we used to use to fill up the lawnmower. I was the lawn boy of the house, of course. And we used to make ornate forts and fortifications. It was right after World War II. We were still fighting World War II. And we liked the idea of napalm. And so we'd burn stuff up all the time. You know, firecrackers, an M80. Hey, 4 M80s, that's like a stick of dynamite. We used to stick them in telephone poles and blow the telephone poles up. We were weird. Anyhow, it's a long time ago. But I remember one time we were playing with the fire and the gas can caught on fire and exploded. You want to see some young kids running? All you see is assholes and elbows, because we knew when that gas can caught on fire, whoa, things were out of control. And that's what happens when you play with fire. And so if this war gets out of control and we go back to a kind of lifestyle that does not have rule of law, that does not have the institutions of power that protect the minority rights of individual citizens or the rights of women in general, and we go back to a very unadulterated Darwinian, the strong rule the weak, which is what we'll have if we lose our institutions. Because our institutions, interestingly, even though they're trying to turn them communist, our institutions are based on Mosaic and Christian law. I mean, is there anything more protective of minority rights than love your neighbor as you wish to be loved yourself? In other words, if your neighbor is 100 pounds less than you, don't go rob him, kill him, and take his wife away. No, respect him the way you wish, in case the guy next to you, he's even bigger than you. That's how people were living. Might makes right. And we have an institutional framework which moderates that, which comes right out of Christianity, right from Jesus Christ. It's magnificent. But if that goes away, if there's success by those that want to destroy, is really reproductive rights going to be your issue? Is that really the issue? Isn't the issue first having peace and prosperity so that your children can live? Isn't that the primary issue? So, you know, in an absence of logic, when people aren't taught logic, they can get attached to things in ways that are actually self-defeating. I'm not saying this isn't a very important issue to litigate, but let's do it when we're at peace, when we have a functioning economy, when we've sorted out our border, where we've created the conditions where we can optimize. Because a woman's right to reproductive health care presumes there's health care. That's an optimization of the human experience. Hey, for most of human experience, there was no health care. There was, I stepped on a piece of something. Look, blood poisoning. Bill died. Blood poisoning. Whatever they called it at the time. Bad luck. Since I saw you, you might want to use that argument on people. Let's put first things first. Let's put survival ahead of optimization. If you start working on optimization before you got your survival shored up, you could be surprised. And why not? Israel, since I talked to you last, attacked Iran's military targets. It was a tit-for-tat response for the some 200 ballistic missiles that rained down on Israel, which was a response to Israel assassinating everybody that's in leadership all over the Middle East. Hey, if you're leading, you're dying. That's the Israeli policy now. If you lead, if you want to lead Hezbollah, you want to lead in Iran, you want to lead in Hamas, we're killing you. We're taking off the head of the snake, and then the rest of the snake's going to wither up and die. That's a pretty good strategy. And Iran said, hey, we're going to attack you. And they did. And Israel came back, and it was a very measured attack. Everybody's they're going to attack the nuclear sites. They're going to blow up Iran's infrastructure for oil. It's going to be crazy. It wasn't. It was a very targeted attack. Why? Because the United States did not want a big conflagration just days before the election. So guess who the boss is? The boss is not Israel. The boss is Washington, D.C. And why not? That's where all the weapons come from. What are they going to do? Throw stones at these people? If our country cut the weapons off to both sides, because we are on both sides. Oh, yes, we do. We're on both sides of the trade. We just said, nope, we're out. This would be over very quickly. That's what Republicans want to do. We want to restore a peaceful condition throughout the world. And they call me a fascist for that. I'm a fascist because I want peace. Oh, and I'm stupid. Great work. In the meantime, Israel is not done. The word around the water cooler is they're getting ready to attack again. I think somebody said to themselves in Israel, I'm not sure we want that Kamala Harris to be president. She says she's pro-Israel, and we think we got everybody bought off up and down the line here. But, we don't trust her. She never says the same thing twice. One day she's anti-Christ, and the next day she's preaching for Christ. When you got that kind of a skill, when you can go and do that in 1 week, maybe somebody said in Israel, I don't know if we trust her. Maybe we should bomb the Iranians right now, like tonight, and help President Trump get elected. That would be called a war. You really can't call it election interference, but it is kind of potent in the deal, isn't it? So the word is they're going again, even though the Iranians said, we've had enough now. We're going to stop. See, the Israelis really haven't had enough. And if that's not enough to scare you, the North Koreans, who we never signed a peace treaty with, there was an armistice at the end of the Korean War. An armistice means a ceasefire. There's no peace. There wasn't a peace agreement. There was just an agreement that we're going to quit killing each other for now. And that's lasted a very long time. But guess what the North Koreans have done? They've sent crack military units into Russia to join the fight against the Ukrainians. Oh, this has people fired up. Now, I don't know how our political class is going to deal with this. Our Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, said that this has big implications. Big. He said that the implications are going to not just be in Europe, but will also affect the Indo-Pacific region, as if to presage that if the North Koreans join the fight, our military is going to attack North Korea on the Korean Peninsula. Well, that would be World War III. But see, it's settled down now. Everybody's being quiet. There was immediate protestations from Representative Mike Turner, Republican neocon extraordinaire from Ohio, the chair of, guess what, the House Intelligence Committee. And he has called on the U.S. to consider, direct military action. That's a quote. If North Korean troops are sent to fight in the Ukraine. Quote, if North Korean troops were to invade Ukraine's sovereign territory, the United States need to seriously consider taking direct military action against the North Korean troops. Well, that'd be obvious. They're in theater. And continued, I have long challenged the Biden-Harris administration's unwise position on restricting Ukraine's use of U.S. weapons against targets within Russian territory. If North Koreans are in the game, this ding-dong, Mike Turner, says it's time to take off the restrictions and let the Ukrainians shoot missiles deep into Mother Russia. This is what I mean about things escalating out of control. That's who these people are. These Kamala Harris Democrats. And it has to, for me personally, having grown up in a Democrat household that was deeply committed to anti-military industrial complex, to see how my parents' generation has been co-opted and put on the payroll and flipped and been manipulated to turn back on themselves in one lifetime and go from being hegemonically anti-war when their ass was on the line during the Vietnam period to now be my age and say, this is great. Let's send our grandkids off to die. Hey, they're done. Long as I don't have to lose a leg. It's so just illogical, so selfish, so self-serving, and so cowardly. It's actually stunning. To me, it's just stunning. And I just go back to the Bush administration, George W. Bush, when that crew of neocon Democrats invaded Iraq to pursue and to promote the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, convert or die, kind of like the Crusades, convert or die. Code Pink, which was a super leftist organization, was out in the streets protesting almost every weekend against that war all over the country. What happened to Code Pink? Why aren't they protesting these wars? Well, that's because they're wars of the left. So the people that were in Code Pink really don't have a philosophy about war and peace. They have a philosophy about power. And they'll use any means at their disposal to undermine republicanism. And they were undermining George Bush, who was a pretty thin example of republicanism. The Ukrainian troops are deserting and refusing to follow orders. So, of course, now Zelensky, for the first time, is offering the Russians a very realistic way to step off the stage and head towards the peace table. Zelensky has suggested that both sides should stop attacking cargo vessels and energy infrastructure. Of course, that's self-serving for him because their electric grid's been, smoked. But this is the first time he's jumped up and said anything conciliatory. And it is indicative of the Russian advance in the eastern Ukraine and the degradation of the Ukrainian military capability. Well, that's how wars come to end. Somebody wins, somebody loses. Just like in Israel, where Hamas has lost, and Israel is now calling for the expulsion of Palestinians at a Resettle Gaza conference. In other words, they're cleansing North Gaza of Palestinians. We talked about it. It's called the General's Plan. And the generals said, hey, ask them to leave. If they don't leave, kill them or starve them to death. It's not really an ask. But that's what's going on over there. Somebody won, somebody lost. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected a request from Secretary of State Antony Blinken to publicly say that Israel is not implementing this ethnic cleansing plan. He rejected it. He said, I'm not gonna reject it because that's state policy. So all this is going on. We talked about BRICS and the establishment of a multipolar world and how our leadership, not you and me, not we the people, but these ding-dongs that we elect because we're not paying attention or we're not voting, the people that are going to get us killed. They're making so many bad decisions and they're doubling down on their bad decisions. And it's becoming evident that their narrative is unwinding, which we're going to talk about tonight. The establishment of multipolarity just means that we're still a great country. We're just going to let other people be great. And we don't really care what the Russians do and the Chinese do in their backyard. Just don't step on my blue suede shoes, Russia and China. And right now, we're over there stomping on their blue suede shoes. And this has to come to an end in some way, shape, or form. It's either going to come to a realignment politically here in our country, and that people who want peace and prosperity prevail, and then peace is going to break out everywhere, or women are going to lose their reproductive rights. Because without institutions, who will be protecting their rights? Something to use as a closing argument. And let me tell you how far President Xi and the BRICS movement is going to establish multipolarity. One of the kind of swing states, because you got swing states in the country, we got swing nations. A kind of swing nation is India. And India, because it was a British colony, so it has a lot of British colonial institutional history and memory. It was a non-aligned nation. There was a non-aligned movement. It wasn't communist. It wasn't capitalist. It was non-aligned. It's now industrializing. Indian people like to make money. And really because India is actually going to have a bigger population and a younger population than China, China and India are actually strategic competitors. And then you get it down to the personal level. From my own experience, talking to lots of Indians, and I've been to India, and lots of Chinese, these two groups of people really don't like each other at all. They don't like each other. I would say they hate. Let me tell you how much they hate each other. Not many years ago, 2020, there was a clash in the Himalayas, which is the border, and it's an undefined border between India and China. And Indian troops and Chinese troops got into a war there, a small border war. And they love each other so much that they put their rifles down and made clubs and wrapped the clubs in barbed wire and fought each other with clubs wrapped in barbed wire. You got to really hate people to beat them to death with clubs. That's like you got to enjoy your work, right? And there was a lot of people that died. This was not a small deal. So they killed a bunch of people in hand-to-hand combat. That'll give you an idea of how these groups feel about each other. But President Xi of China and India's President Modi have secured a border peace deal after decades of friction. So China's going around coalescing this multipolarity while we sit in Washington, we the people, and plot how to go to war with the entire world. And what happens when you go to war with the entire world? Your economy sucks because war is super expensive. The consumers, they're saying inflation's getting back down to the target, but the prices didn't go back down, did they? Prices are still high.
Yeah, they're still pretty high.
Can't afford to live, can you?
I think the only place that I'm kind of surprised is Culver's. Culver's is the only place that I feel like, that's actually not that bad price. Like, not going to McDonald's anymore.
I got to tell you, I discovered Culver's in the last few months. I'd never been there.
Really?
Could have been the same thing.
Yeah.
Culver's is pretty badass.
It's really good.
Culver's, you can call us. We give you a commercial spot. But, my point is this. The consumers are running out of money. You can't have this high pricing for this long. I mean, people's credit card debt, all-time high. Personal savings, all-time low. The delta between the debt and the savings rate, all time. All time. So people are running out of money, which means when Christmas comes, there's going to be less G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip sold, less partying, less of everything, which means our economy is going to start to slow down. Slow down. But they tell you how great it is. I was watching this morning, we had almost 3% of growth. Almost 3% of growth. And they were touting Bidenomics and Harris as economic geniuses. And we have borrowed in the last 3 weeks $500 billion in 3 weeks. We're $1.9 trillion in the hole for the year, which means we monetized almost $2 trillion. That's why our economy is growing. It's not growing from hard work or creativity. It's growing from what's called financialization, which always precedes an economic collapse. If you look at every other country in the world, now we're able to pull this off because we're the world reserve currency, which means a very high percentage of world transactions are conducted in dollars. There's demand for dollars, and that's holding up the charade. But that's what the Chinese are doing with the Indians and the Russians and the Saudis and the South Africans. They're creating an alternative currency block. They want to get off the dollar. They don't want us, you and me, to tell them what to do. That's what they're working on. And when they pull that off and the demand for dollars decline, do you know what's going to happen to that ocean of paper that's out there? It's all going to come pouring back into the United States, and that Culver's hamburger is going to cost $20.
Dang.
Right.
You're wrecking
That's
it
getting
for
ready
me.
to happen, kids. Well, we're going to put her, and that's why we have the military all over to prevent that to happen. Now you see how it works? Our export is the dollar. My lifestyle is based on a financialized view of the economy. I look at my pixels and I go, oh, my Charles Schwab account, I made 30% this year. I must be a genius having my money in an index fund. And if you're doing that, if you're looking at your index fund and you're up 20 to 30% this year and you're not scared shitless, hey, okay, you're a believer in the post-World War II Democrat liberal order that this is just going to go on and on and on. And it will till it doesn't. And the transition between when it works and it doesn't is going to be one day. It's going to be one day. Interest payments on our debt now exceed defense spending. Did you know that we're spending more money on servicing our $35, $36 trillion debt than we're spending on the U.S. military?
Oh,
What would happen to your economy at home if the interest you were paying on your loans
was more than my actual
everything else that you were doing to live?
Oh, I mean, it would be out of house.
You would be,
I
wouldn't
would
you?
not have a place. Yeah, I'd be living on the street.
Unless you could print money.
Yeah.
When
if
you
only.
do that, you're called a counterfeiter. When we do it here, it's called the Federal Reserve. Interesting. Things that make you say, So the news is not good. My takeaway is if we're going to change this, we're going to have to get a lot more active. Please bring people to the podcast. And, staying on air like this and expanding this programming, it takes money. And, Royce and I both have a hard time talking about the money aspect of the business because we're focused totally on the message. And then people go, oh, you're grifting. Oh, kiss my ass. We're not grifting. We're trying to not go bankrupt. And we do that by asking you to support the advertisers that are part of Free People Radio or part of any of the media that you're consuming. You have free will. You got to buy something and you like somebody's podcast or you're watching some media. Like, for example, Steve Bannon came out of the jail and went right back to work on War Room. Many of you probably watched it. He's got advertisers. He's not making brink. The man is fighting like hell to stay out of jail. I mean, this costs millions. So how do we do it? We help the movement by supporting the advertisers that are part of the alternative conservative media effort, which is what's deconstructing the narrative, which is what we're going to talk about just in a little bit. Our strategy is TireGet, TireGet.com. TireGet is here for the movement and for all the broadcasters and channels and stations that are presenting this content for you. TireGet is an online e-commerce platform where you can buy your tires. Now, everybody buys tires, or most of us buy tires. There's everything there that you need for your vehicles. All kinds of different brands, premium major brands, premium private label brands, every kind of tire. You go there, you pick your tire. We will ship the tires to the installer right by your house at no extra charge. You pay TireGet to have your tires installed. It's a one-stop shop for everything you need in tires and the best customer service in the tire business. So the next time you buy tires, think of TireGet. You got to buy your tires from someone. Please buy them from us. Welcome back. Thank you. Thank you. And please, the next time you buy tires, you might as well buy them from us because you'll be funding this content. Thank you. Okay, Tanner, back to the chase. Could you please play number 2?
Back during slavery, when black people like me talked to the slaves, they didn't kill him. They'd send some old house Negro along behind him to undo what he said. You have to read the history of slavery to understand this. There were two kinds of Negroes. There was that old house Negro and the field Negro. And the house Negro always looked out for his master. When the field Negroes got too much out of line, he held them back in check. He put them back on the plantation. The house Negro could afford to do that because he lived better than the field Negro. He ate better, he dressed better, and he lived in a better house. He lived right up next to his master in the attic or the basement. He ate the same food his master ate and wore his same clothes. And he could talk just like his master. Good diction. And he loved his master more than his master loved himself. That's why he didn't want his master hurt. If the master got sick, he'd say, "What's the matter, boss? We sick?" When the master's house caught a fire, he'd try and put the fire out. He didn't want his master's house burned. He never wanted his master's property threatened. And he was more defensive of it than the master was. That was the house Negro. But then you had some field Negroes who lived in huts, had nothing to lose. They wore the worst kind of clothes, they ate the worst food, and they caught hell. They felt the sting of the lash. They hated their master. Oh, yes, they did. If the master got sick, they prayed that the master died. If the master's house caught a fire, they prayed for a strong wind to come along. This was the difference between the two. And today you still have house Negroes and field Negroes. Yeah. I'm a field Negro.
That is the ever relevant Malcolm X commenting on the inside cultural realities that extend from slavery right to the current time. And I play this because I've had the great privilege for many years to work with Royce White. And he's a militant. And you would have to say that he is not in the house. And he speaks a kind of truth that scares the establishment to death. And they're doing everything that they possibly can to limit him, hold him back, cast him as a wingnut. And his arguments and his understanding of these histories for a man his age really is unparalleled in modern American political history. Now, maybe in the 1830s, 1840s, where people really devoted themselves to study because there was nothing else to do. No video games, for example, no movies, no phone. People read. Yes, people had a much deeper understanding of history when history was, what people studying history was the entertainment. Being eloquent was the entertainment. We don't live in that world now. But we have this very unique man who has, really worked on mastering these ideas. And the people that he was, talking to and, politically, they have no idea where he's coming from. I watched him debate Amy Klobuchar, and I urge all of you to go, listen to this debate. You can find it online. We can even post it in the chat. I'll get it to anybody that contacts me. He ran circles around Amy Klobuchar. She was so nervous, so uncomfortable, because she in her mind had been programmed that Royce White was a savage, that he was a flamethrower, that he wasn't thoughtful in what he was presenting. And he smoked her. I mean, he really smoked her. Some of the lines are epic. And then right afterwards, the Minneapolis Star-Tribune came right out, and I'll just read you the start of this article. Minnesota Republicans should start to search now for a serious candidate who can actually challenge Amy Klobuchar in 2030. See, it was a ridicule. Saul Alinsky, a radical leftist who gave us the rules for radicals, said that the number one tool of the radical to use on their opponents was ridicule. Well, now the radicals are the establishment. They own the Star-Tribune. We live in a communist state, but they're still using the techniques of rules for radicals. And this was an article that was full of ridicule, really aimed at discrediting Royce as a thoughtful challenge to the status quo. But why I played that Malcolm X piece is something that they put in here that is so racist that I just can't let it go by. And when these white liberals go racist, they don't even know they're being racist. These people really, really don't understand themselves. And there's a line in this thing that goes, elsewhere, this is to juxtapose the good house Negro with the field Negro that they're representing Royce as. The good house Negroes, 3 black Democrat women, are also seeking historic wins in the Maryland, Delaware, and Indiana U.S. Senate races. Angela also Brooks, Lisa Blunt, Rochester, and Valerie McRae, respectively. Blunt, Rochester, has served in the U.S. House and in the cabinets of 2 governors. Also Brooks, an attorney, has served as a prosecutor and as a county executive. McRae has a PhD and is a longtime clinical psychologist. White lacks this trio's distinguished credentials. Oh, really? So somehow, because he doesn't have a PhD in clinical psychology, or did not serve in the U.S. House previously as a Democrat, or is not an attorney, a purveyor of the rule of law, somehow this disqualifies him because he doesn't have distinguished credentials, the distinguished credentials that pervade our political class, that have brought the world to the brink of nuclear war, that has impoverished the people with a $36 trillion debt and has opened the border to tens of millions of newcomers coming in the country to take our jobs and destroy our economy. Their credentials, they're very credentialized in destroying the United States of America. They're experts at it. They're living in the house with the master. And who's the master? I'm going to leave that to you to answer that question for yourself. What master are they serving? I'm not going to go full-blown religious on this podcast. But, if you have to make a choice, right? If you have to make a choice, if it's a binary choice, like there's this kind of middle area where you can say, well, I'm agnostic. I mean, I'm not sure. There's a line in the Bible about that, about being lukewarm. God will spit your ass out, okay? You're going to make a decision now, every one of us, between the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, which stands on the edifice of human arrogance, also known as the scientific method, or you're going to choose republicanism, which stands on a 5,700-year tradition of faith and logic brought to us by thoughtful people that set us free to be the sovereigns of our own life. So you can choose a woman's right to reproductive health care, and the cost of that is you're no longer going to be free. You're going to have a freedom, but You might have to go serve in the U.S. military, ladies. There's a bill brought to you by the same people that are protecting your right to health care to send your ass to the front to get killed to defend this order. And you should defend it because you believe in it. So go all the way, or recognize your reproductive health care is being used to manipulate you so that you support a failed ideology of worldwide violence and war, of debt and death. So I really object to the Star Tribune. And if you're listening to me and you're in Minnesota, yeah, you guys can call me. I'd like to get an interview so that the racism of your editorial staff that would write that somehow lacking the credentials that have brought us death and debt is a deficit. Actually, I think it's a positive. It's like when I'm hiring people to work for me. When I'm hiring people, I get these resumes. I just look, graduated from college, don't want to even interview them. I don't want to undo that friggin' brainwashing that they come into my office with. They're gum dipped. Give me somebody that is confused but not gum dipped. Please. What turned me on this is I was doing a interview with somebody. I needed to hire someone for my financial department. And I made a comment about inflation, that it's government policy, because it is. She got up and walked out because I had made a comment that inflation was somehow, of course it's government. She's an idiot and she's gum dipped. It's a twofer, right? Not too smart and believe in lies. Woo! We don't want those kind of people running the machine. We want non-credentialized, authentic and raw voices that have taken time to understand what's going on here, and they cannot be bought, they will not be bought, and they will fling themselves headlong into this incredible culture of lie and deceit that dominates our political class. They'll look right at you and lie right to your face. So here they went on to continue. I thought this was great. They put a bunch of Royce's quotes. They picked them out of different podcasts. And let Roy speak for himself. And this is a great preface to the end of the podcast because they focus on this 2022 Twitter post that surfaced recently. Quote, "It dawned on me today, the bad guys won in World War II. There were no good guys in the war. The controlling interests had a jump ball. If you look closely, you will see the link between liberalism and communism in the United Nations." Okay, go look at my podcast, which I did in support of this idea. Who won World War II? Who won? Stalin. Killed 20 million Christians there in the Soviet Union, just for the jump start. Mao ended up on top in China. Estimates range as high as 400 million Chinese if you put the abortions in. And look what happened in our country. We imported Nazis, Operation Paperclip. We have a completely Darwinian kind of higher education. Faith is on the all-time decline, and everybody's on the payroll looking at their pixels going, look at how brilliant I am buying index funds. God damn, I'm smart buying an index fund. Everybody's on the payroll. It's what it is. Bought off while our country pursues policies that are killing people all over the world. We live in a military dictatorship with the illusion of freedom. Or as Frank Zappa said, politics are the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex. Very much object to this racist op-ed piece. So they just went further. They go, look at these crazy things Royce White said. Alex Jones was right. A statement written on his scalp as White played in 3-on-3 basketball at the Big Three. Alex Jones was right. Well, actually, Alex Jones was not always right. But you know what he was right about? 30 years ago, he was the first guy to jump up and say there was a new world order, that the new world order was going to do this, that, thus, and so, all of which came true. He's a futurist that was right on the money. He predicted the 9/11 attacks before they happened. I mean, for example, So he wasn't always right, but Alex Jones was right about world government and the United Nations and the technocracy. Yeah, he was right. Not about everything, but enough to say on the important things that matter, the things that'll keep me alive. You know what? He said some very insightful things. Of course, he's demonized. I love this one. No, you rhino scum. I'm coming to break the Senate. You omnibus neocons are done. Harris is more likely to vote with you cowards than vote against you. We see through this WWE BS. Is in response to a comment by Senator Mitch McConnell, who's a scumbag, a very wealthy scumbag who has now spoken very openly against Donald Trump. He's with the Harris camp. He's going to pull the lever for Harris. He thinks I'm garbage. He's not a Republican. He's just in the political theater. That's why Royce said we see through this WWE BS. It's a stage kind of political theater to amuse us. So we're focusing on this theater. In the meantime, AI is getting smarter. Biotechnology is getting funded. Robotics is growing by leaps and bounds. The real issue, the issue of technology, unfettered technology, that's going to replace me, we don't even talk about it. The real issues are not even being discussed. All this is a diversion. I'll let you know how I think about this. Oh, here's a good one. The vaccine industry is a racket. Okay, well, that's Royce's opinion. It is the most profitable segment of medicine. You can't discredit a person because of one thing they say taken out of context. Discrediting people because they're not credentialized. And I went through a lot of that with the Professor Penn moniker because my father was a professor. I was trained to be a professor. I didn't do it because I didn't want to hang out with communists. And I get these leftists that come into my X feed. Please follow me on X. And they say, oh, I'm just a tire salesman. Like, I'm just a tire salesman because I've owned my own business since I'm 19. And these people couldn't run a lemonade stand, okay? They're hopelessly dependent on the system. And I'm an asshole because I'm economically independent. And that it's just it's so much easier to run your own business than it is to be a college professor. Let me tell you, I've grown up in both camps. It's much harder to run a business than it is to teach at a university. Much harder. It's not even close. That's how stupid these people are. I try not to talk about things I don't understand. On the podcast, you hear me say things like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to research this. But any of you that are not, you're working for somebody else, I'm not judging against you. Owning your own businesses, other than being in combat, is the hardest thing you can do. The stress, the anxiety, the terror, the fight that I have to put up with on a daily basis to maintain my economic independence. I mean, even myself, I say it's not worth it. But I can't give up because there's no retreat in battle. I started my business career under Reagan. It was a period of great economic freedom. It was easy. And a lot of people have given up. I will not. I will die in the saddle. It's just who I am. There's once you start, you can't stop. But the thing that really got me about this debate with Amy Klobuchar, other than Royce kicking her ass, which I hope you listen to the debate and you'll come to your own conclusion. That's my conclusion. She made a big deal about Royce being vulgar and talking about the need for bipartisanship in this era of great conflict, that we all need to come together. We all need to be together as one in the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, because these Republicans, they're wingnuts. And Royce, he's vulgar. He swears. A swear word. It's going to break our union when Royce White, American citizen, uses a swear word. Yeah, fuck you, okay? Because there's nothing more vulgar than I have 5 military-age children and their lives are subject to being drafted and killed in wars of discretion. not wars of necessity, wars of discretion to spread your ideology as if it's the only and the truest and the goodest. So, Senator Klobuchar, win or lose, it's time for you to retire because your ideas are wearing out. See, this is the greatest part of this time. And while we played on a previous podcast how Kerry, John Kerry and Hillary Clinton and all these, glitterati are talking about we've got to curtail freedom of speech because we're losing control. We can't manufacture consensus. There's too much misinformation. So like what I'm saying is my opinion. It's my opinion. It's from my street corner. I'm not trying to share misinformation with you. I'm sharing with you what I truly believe after decades of continuous study and research. I have a counter narrative. It may be right, it may be wrong. I don't know. I'm not so arrogant as to say I know the truth. I talk about the search for truth that all of us have to do. I'm not saying that what I believe is absolutely positively and certainly the facts. What kind of assholes do that? Whew. My culture is the truth and yours is a myth is always the gateway to genocide. Always. So this labeling of vulgarity, when we live in a country that is engaged in intergalactic vulgarity and lying at a level that is just so profound. Well, let's play number 4.
Important as Trump's fascism is the lead story every day. His cozying up to dictators, his obsession with Hitler that has now come out, what he has said about our...
Okay, so now they're labeling Trump a fascist, as if they even know what it means, a fascist, his obsession with dictators, his cozying up to dictators. No, no, no. The way to avoid a fight is to talk to the people you're not getting along with. When you quit talking with them, yeah, we're going to fight with them. President Trump is doing the basics. He will do the basics of diplomacy. Talk to people. Talk to people. But see, Mika and her ilk, they don't want any talking. They want separation and conflict and control. Please continue.
Veterans and what he wants to do with the military against his political adversaries. It's all huge news. This is the future that we're looking at in the next Trump term, if there is one. But this is what voters know right now, that he is killing us. I'm talking about us.
Stop. Now we're going to go off on this women's reproductive health care issue, that Trump is killing women. Does that sound rather hyperbolic to you? That Trump is killing women, killing them? Actually, he appointed Supreme Court justices who could have ruled any way they wanted to. He lost a lot of rulings too, okay? Like they didn't overturn the last election. They were asked to. They said, no, we're not going to do that. They made legal decisions based on what they thought was right. They're independent citizens that are serving in our government as jurists. And what Mika is saying is so manipulative. She's saying that Trump is controlling this process like he's some kind of demigod. It's ridiculous. The narrative is wearing thin if we use logic to analyze what she is saying. Please continue.
Talking about us women, he's killing us. He is putting us at risk. He is making us afraid to have babies. He is putting our reproductive health at risk, and some women have died already because of this. So we can see right now what's coming. These headlines, and very good reporting, by the way, that shouldn't be questioned by idiots about what Trump has said about
I'm an
Hitler.
idiot. I'm questioning the reporting.
Incredibly important to know. But I do understand that people who are busy and that are people who are just tapping in may not be able to comprehend because we've been free. We've been comfortable. We cannot comprehend that.
You stop it. Okay, so she's saying we've had so much peace and prosperity that we can't comprehend that Trump is a fascist dictator. And she's being so emotional. I get it. You're not really into politics. You're kind of stupid. So let me tell you, you can trust me. I'm Mika Brzezinski. I'm a woman. I'm here for you. Trust me. Please continue.
I understand that. I validate that it is hard to go from here to there. It is where we're going. I hope we don't find out the hard way. But what's happening with women right now is real, and it is playing out across America.
This is what happens when a narrative starts to come undone. People get very hyperbolic. It almost doesn't make any sense. Trump is killing women. Okay.
I want to know, like, is she going to get arrested? Why is she working so hard? Like, that sounded so desperate, what she was just saying.
They're afraid they're going to get arrested.
Like, her?
Yeah.
Okay, and then my other question is, how is this not slander? Because this isn't saying his decisions could kill you. It's saying he's killing us. How is that not slander?
You know, they have control of the media.
That's wild.
And what they're doing is they are defending the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. And more of us are seeing that this is making us poor and at war. Very simple. Poor and at war. It's these low information voters that she's pandering to, I validate you. Hey, that'd be you in her mind, a young dummy who can't afford to live your life. And if this goes really weird, you're going to get drafted. And you're saying to yourself, could we make an affordable life so I could buy a house and have a family? And could you please make it so I don't have to get killed? Government, could you protect my do your job. Make me safe. Don't mess things, because they're messing things up and people are figuring it out. So you're hearing it, you're going, boy, this is kind of extreme. Well, here's what these people look like to me. Here's what I see, but I'm a little bit older. You might find this funny. 5A, please.
Let's go listen in to what the Minister of Information is saying.
We have slaughtered about 3/4 of them so far, and there is some remnants of them left. They said that they have entered Baghdad with 65 tanks into the center of the city. And I'm telling you, this is not true. The operations are still ongoing, and I can tell you, and you can record it on me that I have said that, they are beginning to commit suicide at the walls of Baghdad. And I will encourage them to increase the rate of committing suicide. We have fed them a sour taste yesterday, poison, and by the brave forces of Saddam Hussein. They were surrounded. And they were dealt with. There is no presence of the American columns in the city of Baghdad at all.
What do you have to say about that?
Oh, he's just across the street from us. We'll go over and talk to him.
Are you planning on paying him a visit?
Yeah, sure. Literally, we're parked right outside of the Ministry of Information's headquarters. We've got the Rashid Hotel surrounded out there. They can look out their window. They can see us. We're sitting right outside of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers. Here is the grand, what do we call this place? The reviewing stand. We're in front of the zoo. We've got, I don't know. Look out the windows. You can tell we're in downtown Baghdad.
That's what happens when a narrative falls apart. There was Baghdad Bob, for those of us that remember him, out there holding the party line that Iraq's armed forces were destroying the invaders, and they're committing suicide because they cannot win, and he encourages them to increase their rate of suicide, and they're feeding them the poison of the defense of Iraq, and the U.S. military was right across the street. And that's how these people are right now. They're trying to hold up the following. We are a colossus standing on the mountain of power. That was Joe Scarborough with Morning Miko. I'm going to read this again. We, that'd be us, we the people, we are a colossus standing on the mountain of power. Well, it's a lie, and it's also pretty sacrilegious, okay? Kind of speaks to the arrogance of these people. We, that'd be them, the leaders, they're a colossus standing on the mountain of power. And that narrative is falling apart. We know that they are lying. They know that they are lying. They even know that we know they are lying. We also know that they know we know they are lying too. They, of course, know that we certainly know they know we know they are lying too as well. But they are still lying. In our country, the lie has become not just a moral category, but the pillar industry. Lying is the pillar industry. And that was applied to the Soviet Union by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, but it really speaks to where we're at right now in our country. Everything is a lie. The whole thing is a lie. And the narrative starts coming apart. And I'm going to show you what the core idea of the narrative is. Could you please play number 6?
You were my mother.
Do not dare far from me, O Lord.
Oh my God, I'm heartily sorry for having offended thee. I detest my sins for having offended thee, O Lord. I detest my sins for having offended thee. Listen to me, Lord.
All my strength, haste thee to help me.
Let's go! Right.
I'm going to say to William, if you turned off or if you made it through, I'm sorry. William doesn't like this kind of violence, and I completely agree with them, but I'm playing this to make a point. This is part of the iconic opening battle scene of Saving Private Ryan, Steven Spielberg movie. It is what we live our lives by. This was the ascendancy of technology, military technology, wielded by we the people. This is the core of who we are, this battle. D-Day, June 6, 1944, the defeat of the Nazis and the ascension of the New World Order, the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. They call it the New World Order because they're really evil. The New World Order was actually republicanism. The New World Order was the idea that the citizen was the sovereign and overturned the monarchical dictatorial rule of a hereditary family of rulers. That was the New World Order. These people occupied that idea, I mean evil people, and said, we're going to take the steering wheel back from you sovereign citizens. We're going to give you so much material well-being that you're just going to give your freedom back to us, and then we will rule over you as we've done for hundreds of thousands of years previous. So they took the name New World Order from the Republicans, just like the Republican Party took the name from the Republican philosophy. So what is this election really about? Well, we're told it's about Donald Trump and Vice President Harris. I want us focused on these two people. Focus, all your attention. And to me, I don't even see either one of them. This is my closing argument. Might not work for your neighbor or for your child, for your father or mother, but it's my argument for you. Because all of these politicians have feet of clay. They all fall short. All of them. We're not going to get a perfect politician. If we do, that'll be supernatural. But the ideas, it's the ideas. We're living in a culture that's based on that battle scene. Everything about the way our culture works today is in that battle scene. The organization of technology, the organization of logistics, the ability to think global, to get all those people, all those materials from the United States all the way over to the European shore, to invade, to conquer, to control, to ask our young people to sacrifice their lives. The killing of the other, even when they have their hands up, even when they're surrendering. Hey, too bad, accident. Shouldn't have been a Nazi. That invalidates you as a human being, right? We've objectified you as a Nazi, so we're going to just shoot your ass, right? Even when you got your hands up. Let them burn. All of these things are woven into who we are. This is not a screed against veterans or against the accomplishments of individual heroes. This is the political organization that takes young men and sends them to faraway places to die in support of the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. That's the scene upon which it all rests. And the narrative is unwinding because of podcasts, because of the work of leaders that speak articulately, that the people can hear. And what are we saying? What am I saying? I'm saying it's a very simple choice. Self-governance or tyranny. I don't need to care about Vice President Harris, that she's tyrannical or not tyrannical. It's got nothing to do with it. It's got to do with the philosophy that they've laid out, that they're the best, that they're the true and the good, and that anything else is not as good. We, the people, believe that our culture is the truth and everybody else's is a myth. And if we stay on this road and let these intellectuals lead us down this path, we will surely die, in my opinion. So I vote for republicanism, for the philosophy that eschews foreign entanglements, that wants to have a, not codependence, but interdependence of businesses based on an American economy, that's concerned about the well-being of every citizen, the well-being, not the material sufficiency alone, like the Democrat, not just materialism, but materialism and spirituality, a blend, a mix, a higher level of human expression. So I don't let Donald Trump bother me. I don't even think about him. And if you love him, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying for me, I'm going to choose the path of peace. We might not have peace on that path. I don't know what's going to happen next. But I know if I stay on this Democrat liberal order path, it's not looking good. That's why we do the News That Matters. Because the News That Matters, there's no good news. It's all about the drums of war. So I'm going to choose the peaceful way. I'm going to pray for peace and hope for peace and work for peace and spread the idea of peace, because I believe that I will love the Lord my God with all my heart and all my soul and all my might, and that I will love you, my neighbor, as I would like you to love me. I would like to have that as being part of my politics. Because when that's not there, you get a scene just like that iconic 3 minutes and 33 seconds from Saving Private Ryan. This I do not want for my children. So on that note, I wish you a great weekend. Make sure you vote. We're going to take Tuesday night off. We'll see you again next Thursday, God willing, for a postmortem. We'll see what's going on. It's kind of exciting because it's going to be a surprise, right?
Right.
Right. Tanner, thanks very much. Good to see you this morning.
Of course. Have a good night, everybody.
This world you write for me. I'm acquainted with your suffering, and all your weight that falls on me, it brings me down. And all your weight that falls on me, it falls on me. Hey! Hold me up to all of you to see your promises you break, you still believe. Falls on me, it brings me down. All your weight, it falls on me, it falls on me. All your weight, it falls on me, it brings me down. All your weight, it falls on me, it falls on me. It brings me down.